This is a story that has been hidden from everyone for many years. I didn't know about it myself until I got older, started seeking answers to questions that had been lingering in my mind. But when I found out what happened, everything in my life changed. I still can't shake the feeling that something sinister is lurking behind every step, and that terror continues to haunt me. My grandfather, on my mother's side, was a man everyone considered strict but fair. He was almost a mythical figure to us. He was the one who always stood up for the family, always ready to help, but as it turned out, there was something much darker behind that protective facade. And maybe, if I hadn't unearthed these secrets, I would never have understood that we were just pawns in his game. When my aunt was about 6 years old, she became the object of unwanted attention. An unknown man began following her. He watched her from a distance, stood in front of her school where she often played, and one day, he tried to lure her into his car. It was so frightening that my mom and her brothers remember that moment as one of the most terrifying of their lives, even though the children didn't fully understand what was happening. But my aunt, being so young, couldn't comprehend what was going on. All she remembered was his face, his gaze, and his voice when he promised her toys and tried to lead her to a place where you can play. At that point, he hadn't yet become the man he killed, as my uncles and mom later put it. One day, on a Friday morning, my grandfather drove my aunt to school. But this wasn't an ordinary morning. My grandfather didn't drive her in the usual direction. He told her, "Today we'll fix this." The car was silent, no music, no casual conversation. It was tense, as if something dangerous hung in the air. When they pulled up to the school, he silently opened the door and said, "Point him out." She pointed at him, and everything became clear. My grandfather, along with a family friend who had always been by his side, started to take action. But no one knew that their plan was far darker than anyone could have imagined. That day, when my aunt pointed out the man, they organized a trip that seemed like a typical family vacation. They drove to a beach, a secluded place where no one would find them. They stopped at a gas station, and that's when my older uncle noticed something strange under the seat, something wrapped in cloth. When he unwrapped it, he found a machete, covered in blood and entrails. He quickly wrapped it back up, but the feeling of dread never left him. He knew something terribly dangerous was going on. This wasn't just a crime, it was an act of vengeance, a vendetta to protect his family, to protect those who were under threat. But what happened next still haunts me. How could they hide the evidence so easily? My grandfather and his friend brought out a huge roll of carpet and began walking along the beach, hiding their tracks. It was as if everything was meticulously planned. Everything seemed like it was meant to happen this way. They walked along the sandy shore, stopping now and then to bury the evidence, to hide what they had done. They didn't even glance back, as if everything had been part of their daily routine. After that, as if nothing had happened, the family was taken to a hotel. My uncles and aunt didn't understand what had just transpired, except that their late grandfather and his friend seemed to be completely confident in their actions. Think about what they hid from us. Why were they so calm while doing something that seemed impossible? Why did my grandmother, who had always been so quiet and caring, just shrug when everything was uncovered? She said, "Grandfather always knew what to do." But what exactly did he know? Years passed, and when I began to ask my mom and uncles about it, they were shocked. No one could comprehend what had been done. I remember how my older uncle could hardly hold back tears when he recalled those moments. He remembered how they returned from the beach, hearing only the sound of the waves, and how everything around them seemed so peaceful, so calm. But at that moment, in their minds, it was entirely different. Soon after everyone found out, I began to think that my grandfather might not have just been a cruel man. Maybe he was hiding something much worse. And what if his friend, the one who went with him to the beach, knew more than we could ever imagine? What if he himself was involved in something larger, something they both kept silent about? I can't forget those thoughts. But what terrifies me the most is what if what they did wasn't the end of the story? What if the man they killed, the one who once tried to lure my aunt into his car, wasn't finished yet. What if that beach wasn't a place of rest, but a place where even darker things happened, things that I can't even begin to comprehend? I still can't shake the feeling that, perhaps, I don't know the full truth, and that what was hidden under that carpet is yet to be revealed. Every time I think about it, I am overwhelmed with the feeling that someone is still watching us. Something dark, unseen, and perhaps still alive. Maybe the terror didn't end back then, on that beach. Maybe it's still among us.